Welcome to the Hands Up for Trad afternoon show. I hope you're enjoying this spring weather. I want to tell you about a special concert we're having this coming Friday, the 26th of March. We are working with Stonehaven Folk Club again for another Folk in Crisis fundraiser, where we have some brilliant acts lined up. Performing are Siobhan Miller and Ewan Burton, Adam Sutherland and John Somerville, Emily Smith and Jamie McLennan, Anna Massey, Alan Reid, Claire Mann and Aaron Jones, Hannah Rarity, and the current BBC Radio Scotland Young Traditional Musician Award winner, Michael Biggins. And the whole thing is emceed by a great singer from Stonehaven, Andy Poppleston. It's very exciting. The aim is to raise as much money as possible for musicians who are, as you can imagine, are still struggling because there's no work for them. But it's always a great night's concert. So hopefully you can join us. It will be on the Hands Up for Trad Facebook page and YouTube page, and also on the Stonehaven Folk Club group page. So check it out. 7:30 this Friday coming. Anyway, it's not often you get to meet your heroes, and today I'm very lucky to be chatting to Ian McCalman, without whom I wouldn't be in folk music today. So, how's it going, Ian?
It's going extremely well, my public. It's going extremely well. I'm thoroughly embarrassed by your introduction, by the way. I'm sure you say that to all the boys. No, it's going very well, and you're right about the spring weather, and that sounds like a fantastic concert you just advertised there for the musicians. I mean, that's a hell of a lot of people that are really incredible on stage. So it's brilliant.
It's a great night, actually. There's some people sent in videos, but the bulk of them are actually performing live as well in Glowworm Studios.
I mean, that's great and good on them. I think we'll talk later about the plight that musicians are in, but it's a terrible situation for them. I just can't imagine. Like, I'm retired, so I still really feel for them. I'm obviously dabble in music, but in the studio and everything, and do productions and all that. But being on the road was the thing. And they must miss it tremendously, and that's not taking into consideration the money. We've all got to earn a living, and it's very difficult for them.
Absolutely. Well, before we get to chatting, Ian, we're going to watch a brand new video that's just come out in the last couple of days. It's from a new band called Stanan, and in the band are Kim Carney, John Lowry, Jack Smedley, Innes White and James Lindsay. And this is a beautiful single they've just released. It's called Gul a Croich. Gul a Croie.
Nice try.
I'm working at my Gaelic, but let's have a listen to it.
Who was more?
So, right, that was fantastic music from Staran, and check out that album. It's released, I think, in a couple of months' time. But if you look for staran.bandcamp.com, you'll find that release. So, Ian, the McCalmans, an amazing legacy. How did you all meet?
I mean, basically, 1964 was the time I just left school, and 1964 I was kind of got into the School of Architecture in Edinburgh. I went along. It was divided into 5 different sections, 5 different studios, arbitrary division of people, and I was sitting next to Hamish, and Derek was 2 down from me in a studio of 7 people. And we kind of got whistling tunes while we were given this menial task by the lecturers for our first day, and got talking about it, decided to meet up the next week. And then we got drunk one night and went along to the Waverley, and we only knew one song. And it was a bonding thing with the other students, so that we all went to the Waverley Bar and sung a song. And the manager of the Waverley Bar, owner, Ian Walker, came up and said, "Can we book you for a night?" So we had a 2-hour session in a week with only 2 songs. We had 2 songs at that time. So that was, I think, where music won and architecture was out the window. I mean, we lasted in architecture Derek lasted 4 years, I lasted 3 years. And really, we had no chance because we never turned up after that. We were always learning songs. And later on, even when we were supposed to be doing the stuff, we were touring England on nights. So that's how it all began.
So was there folk music in your family growing up?
Not really. My mum and dad could both sing. So why have I got my voice? They could both sing, and my father had collections of poetry and my mother had collections of books, but it didn't go beyond that. It was more a sort of the poems my father collected, a sort of anthology of poems he had, were quite varied, and the songs I heard in those days were mainly sort of the Kennedy Fraser kind of things, and then television took over. You watched Hootenanny, and I'll tell you what got me into it. One of the things, and my brothers, 2 brothers, older brothers, was the Scotsman. They used to print one of Norman Buchan's songs that he found out. I didn't know it was from the 101 Scots Songs collection. But we used to pounce on that every Saturday and kind of try and learn the songs. And the 3 of us would sing them. So it's amazing how these, you watch the Tonight programme, dun, 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 and you see Cliff Mitchellmore and it's Rory and Alex McEwen or something like that. And you say, God, that's interesting. And later on, Nadia Cattouse and then Robin Hall and Jimmy McGregor, and then it all rolls up with the Beatles coming out, and all these mix into I suppose a style that comes later on. Hootenanny programme on television, fantastic. They saw all the people that I was later to try to emulate, try to copy their songs and later meet.
So what about the close harmony singing that you were so famous for? How did that come about? Did you sing in the house in close harmony? So when you came with the band, was it kind of easy?
Well, like most Scots, I blame England because it was. We heard one day Frost and Fire, the Wattersons, and we just flipped over that. We had other people we liked the Corries, and yes, we did listen to the at festivals to the traditional singers of the time. So we were involved in that, and we were already meeting people that were interested in the tradition. But we listened to the Wattersons and tried to do harmonies, found that we all had an ear for harmonies. It's not necessarily a sign of quality of the voice that you have an ear for music, but we did have an ear for it. And so we put some of their harmonies to one Watterson song, which was the name of the first album, All in One Mind. That's a Payne Seguin song. And the other ones, we put the same harmonies to on the same album, Farewell to Funerary. And one of Hamish's, it's a bizarre album actually. One of Hamish's Swahili songs, Kwaheri. And so we used the harmonies with that, and then you would hear another group like the Corries, and you would just ape their harmonies, and gradually you would think, well, we could do different harmonies from the standard Corries ones for their songs, and the new songs you had to invent new harmonies. And lest we forget, there was always the Beatles, and I can hear a couple of really stolen Beatles harmonies in a lot of the early albums of the McCalmans. So it's learning from other people.
And so how did you get a record contract?
That's no one's ever asked us that before, and well, it's up to you to reckon whether it's an interesting answer. But we reckon we had to get on with architecture because by the time I think it was 66 had gone and passed, and we'd gone to Denmark. We'd gone by boat, and we had to hitch back. We spent all our money singing in the streets, and no one kind of knew about us then. And we tried to get into Tivoli. We couldn't do it. You know, we paid to get in and tried to get into the folk place for free, and no, couldn't do that. Sung in bars, that was okay. We were good at bars. We've always been good at bars, and so all that came about, and it was just a good fun. But we decided to screw the nut, give up folk music, and after the Danish thing, and then go into architecture fully. And Hamish had things to do as well. We said we'll always be friends, blah blah, which we always were. And so we saw an advert. I can't remember who saw it. It was another singer. I think it was Bill Barclay, who said he'd seen on the news that you could do an audition for Waverley Records, which the Corries had been on. Waverley Records, EMI, at Craighall Studios, just down the road from me. And you didn't have to pay for the studio. And I phoned them up and I said, can you get something to remind you of the audition? They said you could buy an acetate. And I said to the guys, that wouldn't it be great having a record, in all meanings of the word, of the band as we were. And we all agreed, and we did the audition. I remember Bill Barclay had done it, and he said to us, Pete Kerr, the producer, the guy that did it, said that he doesn't know, he hadn't heard from them, but Pete Kerr had said he'd got a great beefy sound to him, to his music. And we thought, oh, that's good. Bill's a good lad. And we went down there and we did our audition. We did 4 songs. I've still got the acetate. I might release that on something that we're talking about later. But we went down, did the 4 songs, and Pete Kerr came up and said, man, you know, you've got a good beefy sound behind you. And I thought, oh, geez. That literally was it, what I said at the beginning of the show. You tell that to all the boys. And so we went away and we basically broke up. And then I got a letter about a month later saying, you've passed your audition, we want you to do an album. And that wasn't like 2021. That wasn't everyone's got their studio and we bring out albums, when you fancy it. There's only another 2 lots of folk singers in Scotland with albums. So I couldn't believe it, and I got in touch with them, and that was the second time that Architects got the swing. And we went along and we did the album in 3 hours, and we reckoned it was okay. It was quite indicative of what we were doing at the time, and we just found the Watersons, we just found those harmonies in time, and that's how the album came about. And
that's
so
amazing.
It's yeah, we actually gave up.
Well, we're going to watch a video now of the original lineup. We were chatting before the show. There isn't very many videos, and I couldn't find any apart from you, Hamish Bain, and Derek Moffat playing together. And this is a song called "The Tailor." And I just have to say, Ian, you always give yourself quite a hard rep about your singing, but me and all your other fans know how fabulous a singer you actually are. And you, and you are taking the lead in this song.
The tailor busy at his seam, I took a look at Swansea Jean, I read enough made nothing's clean, as she gave a travel. The tailor thought I'd lay my life to market thrifty working wife, no like the tide old tuppy now, she'd I help on the same, say while the thread gave quickly through, Jeanie began to woo, and though she made a great to-do, and when she gained consent,
Excellent.
Wow.
I was just saying to Ian there that I was a Hamish Bain clone as a youngster, and I learnt the whistle, and I was going to learn the mandolin before I started the concertina because I couldn't find anyone to teach me the mandolin. But let me just say hello to a few people who are watching today. Hi to Philip on an overcast Norwich. Hi to Graham from King's Kettle. Hi to Ray from a showery Meagle in Perthshire. Hi to someone that doesn't have their name in Pitlochry. Kenneth from Virginia, USA. David from Cheshire. And Gail, greetings from the Glasgow East branch of Kim Carney fan club. Can't say it. And Vincent from Leeds. And Carol Cheeseborough from Yorkshire. Please come and tell us where you're watching from. It's always good to hear from that. Do you remember filming that video, Ian?
I don't remember filming it. But I remember the red trousers. I remember they had a bit of braid on the bottom. It was very, very kind of 60s, 70s that. And I was amazed at that. I've never seen that before in my life. I'd love a copy of that. It's really, it's a revelation to me.
Well, it's just on YouTube.
Yeah. Is it?
Yes.
Oh, right. Oh, well, I never look up YouTube for the McCalmans.
Well, you're not going to find very much anyway, so.
No, not in those days. There's a lot of the later group, but not of those days.
So anyway, you have been doing a great project recently, and you've been digitising the whole of the McCalman's back catalogue and putting them on Bandcamp. In fact, I've got a link for it, actually. There we go. Everyone
well
should
done.
visit this, but mccalmans.bandcamp.com, and I think there's 6 albums up so far.
6 albums so far, and it's just a great fun. My wife can back me up in this. Playing McCalman's albums and music in the house is banned. We're not allowed to. We just don't do it. And it's got a bit easier since I retired, but I heard so much of it when I was actually in the Macs and before I retired that I wanted kind of away from it, rehearse and stuff like that. But actually listening to things going by, you always hear the mistakes that you make and you would have done things better. But now I'm listening to these things, and you rightfully say that I knock myself a lot, got a lot of material, but I think some of them are pretty good. I can now appreciate why we kind of got where we were, because up to then I was very uncertain about the whole thing. I always thought we were going to be found out every 2 months. I reckoned we were going to be found out for the frauds we were.
Oh, Ian, you're terrible, man.
Yeah, but I'm saying they are good. I mean, I think it starts getting good. All in One Mind is the first one, and that I've talked about. But I swear they put on reverb afterwards, because we heard briefly the acetate or whatever they do, and it sounded pretty good. And then we got it back, and the first 2 albums are just swimming in reverb, and it didn't work out. But they're still good, and you can hear that we've got a bit to go. We don't have the discipline in the voice and stuff like that. But there's still a couple of good songs in it, and a couple of different songs, unaccompanied songs, the Plains of Waterloo, excuse me, Plains of Waterloo, and songs like that. So we were definitely trying different things. There's a blues in it, which I felt like committing suicide a year later, and even more so now, because I sung that blues, and I'm so sorry for the whole band of that genre of music, which I love, and I destroyed it. I just destroyed it. It was terrible. In this Scottish voice, it's cocaine all around my brain. I hardly knew what a pint of heavy was, far less cocaine.
Well, Peter Gilmore in Broughty Ferry is saying he still has his copy of the All in One Mind album. And David Crawford is actually asking a question. He says he has a signed copy of Bonnie Bands Again, and he's wondering, because Derek signed the album with a quick sketch of a frog. Do you know why that would be?
Yes. It's because he was Derek Muffet, and he was a herpetologist, self-confessed and self-trained, but he was incredibly knowledgeable about all sort of insects, frogs, toads, beetles, everything, and wildlife generally. He was great. He said, I'll tell you how much he knew about frogs. He was asked a question about 15, 20 years ago. I remember it because I was there at the time. And someone said, "You know about frogs. What is the biggest frog in the world?" And Derek said, the biggest frog, we knew that he knew what the biggest frog that had been discovered was. And he said, the biggest frog is yet to be discovered. They've not found it yet. And the person thought it was a cop-out. And it was typical Derek that he was accurate in it. And about 5 years ago, I was watching a news program, and there was one of these end of news articles that says, and we've just heard that the biggest frog is thought to be blah, 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 but it is actually just been discovered that such and such is bigger. And I looked at the television and said, I told you so. Our Derek told you.
Well,
so that's it.
We're going to watch a song of Derek singing "I Have Seen the Highlands." Now, I know you're a massive fan of Derek's singing. Tell me about his singing.
It's natural. It was as simple as that. And when we met that first time, Derek was the only one that had actually sung in front of people. He'd done the elbow rooms at Dysart. Very much a Dysart man. Don't call him from Kirkcaldy. He's a Dysart man. And he did the elbow rooms as a guest singer quite a few times. His idol was Alex Campbell. And so Derek had that natural voice, and it didn't change from day one to the end. And so that was the rock. I said after it passed on that I spent 35 years looking across the stage at Derek, and he was the pillar of the band. He was always there, and he had such a range in his voice. He did high harmonies brilliantly, and so I locked into that. With harmonies, you don't sing in concert all the time. You lock into each person singing. So you might go down a little bit or up a bit, and if you're on your tatty, you'll stay on concert pitch. But I locked into Derek, and I suppose that's the story of my the days with the first and second lineup of the McCalmans. I locked into Derek.
Well, let's have a listen to him singing "I Have Seen the Highlands."
I was born and raised in Glasgow, in a Gallagate tenement, and when people spoke of my bonny land, I didn't know what they meant. But then I took to travel, I made far and wide, and now when I speak of my native land, I speak with love and pride. For I have seen the highlands, I have seen the low, and I will brag of my native land wherever I may go. Old nature took a tantrum, many's the days gone by, to outdo all of her wondrous work. She thought she'd have a try. She toiled and she thundered, she rumbled and she roared. She made the Highlands of Scotland, then she threw away the mould. For I have seen the Highlands, I have seen the low, and I will brag of my native land wherever I may go.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah.
So that was obviously the McCalmans 2, if we could call them that, with Nick here.
Nick, brilliant musician in his own way. I mean, he was people don't know that he was in the band for something like 26 years or something like. I mean, a phenomenal number of years. Hamish was in the band for 18 years. Try to work out the maths here. And Nick joined in 1982. So, a long time.
Well, a long time. But I mean, you did so much as a band as well. there was TV, lots of TV series, is that correct? Was there more than one?
Lots of TV series. There were 6 television series in all. And I think that the ones at the beginning were great because we followed the football on a Saturday night. I mean, you can imagine what programs follow the football on a Saturday night nowadays. They're always the top programs. And we weren't the top program. It's just they thought, oh, we'll bung them on after the football. So everyone seemed to see us and they figured that later on, and put all their biggest shows in around about that slot. But we did a few for the BBC, a few for Grampian, with the great guy, producer Alan Frankie. And sadly missed that man. And that went to STV. So did a lot of these, a lot of radio programs as well, network radio, and a lot of television in Denmark and Germany and beyond, Australia.
I mean, I was amazed looking at your discography. I mean, really, for your whole career, you made nearly an album every year. That is some output. That's
a sign of a band that works a lot. It's not a sign of you need to bring out an album every year. But I was nuts on getting material. I really wanted new material all the time, and we used to do that. We'd put in some standards and maybe one new ones that we'd sung the last time in a club, but we'd always have. People always knew they were going to get new songs, and they would buy albums. We had good sales in albums at gigs, and I feel sorry for the musicians for that score as well. In modern days, it's more difficult to do that. But we used to sell lots of albums, so we brought about a year and a half. Every year and a half, we'd need to bring out an album because we'd have the new songs to do it. And people asked for these songs. We knew they would ask for these songs. So that's the reason. Yeah, 26 albums all told of new ones. That's not counting the live ones that had old material. There was only one that had a live one that had all old material. And we had on the front cover, "Don't buy this if you've got the albums." So the live ones were necessary as well because people wanted that side of the McCallans.
So I mean, your live albums are. I love your live albums, and I think.
I don't.
I think obviously. I think one of the things that, apart from the singing, that people came to see McCalman's, they also came to see you because you were, hilarious.
Well, I think drunk's the word you're saying.
No, not at all. No, you were so funny.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. I think it was. I look at all these intros and I look at the way I talk now, and it's exactly the same. Not here, but in conversations and things, and it's fairly surreal, and my mind goes in curious ways. So I would say I must do normal introductions tonight. I mean, and then I'd go off at a tangent and then create a story, and it was mainly to amuse me. It wasn't to amuse the audience. So the stories would take different forms, and then the stories would have a character of them all. And we get requested for intros, and in some cases, could you do the intro but not the song? We don't want the song. So it became something I had to deal with, and I had to actively kind of think up what I could tell on stage. Sort of topics that I could expand on stage, going into another tour. Because that was like the songs. Well, I wanted it to be fresh for every time we went to a place, because we did the same places quite often, and the milk rounds,
Well, I know I spent a lot of time in tears listening to you talk, actually, and as did the rest of the audience.
Yes, so did I.
I've actually got an MP3 clip here of you and the guys singing live. It's just the middle song. It's a set of sea shanties. Do you remember what live album this was on?
Yeah, because it's the one I'm working on at the moment to bring out on Bandcamp. I'm going over them all with just spending my lockdown time taking clicks out of Ian McCalman's voice. It's on House Full, I think, which was recorded in the Phoenix Theatre in Leicester in 1976, something like that. But it's not a bad album, and I just get embarrassed by my intros and my persona. I am not the man that people see on stage.
Well, I think listening to this MP3 of just the one song, you get to hear how close, because this is the original lineup, how brilliant you are live and how good you are at harmonies. Let's have a listen to this.
Yes, the Kiva River is the cleaner river, so Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Yes, the Kiva River is the cleaner river, so Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Somebody, oh, Johnny, somebody, oh. Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Yes, the Kiva's bosun is the king of bosun, so Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Yes, the Kiva's bosun is the king of bosun, so Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Somebody, oh, Johnny, somebody, oh. Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Yes, the Kiva's captain is the king of captains, so Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Yes, the Kiva's captain is the king of captains, so Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh. Somebody, oh, Johnny, somebody, oh. Ronnie Tananawi is somebody, oh.
Fantastic.
Yeah, well, I had a lucky night that night. I don't know what that's from. Is that from an album?
It is. I found it on YouTube, but I had that album actually. We probably still have it. Actually, great though. Oh, you seem to have frozen. Are you still there? Oh, you're back.
Yeah, it was. No, I actually.
Oh, I think your internet's having a moment, Ian. I think what we're going to... Let's see if you're coming back. Can't be a bit of live.
We did freeze there. Yeah, it's back now, I think. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Well, we'll carry on, and the next time it happens, I'll go through and toss through the modem through into this. It's last Suede I'm in. Now it takes about a millisecond for your signal and my signal to bounce off whatever satellite it is and come down, and then it comes through a water pipe from Dalkeith to Last Suede, and that's what slows the thing down.
So anyway, Ian, the McCalmans finished up in 2010, but you have never stopped since then. You've been doing loads of interesting things. One of the really big projects you took on was the Far From Ypres project. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I better say first of all that we had 10 years with Stephen Quigg in the band, which was great, and it's great that he came in. Far From Ypres. Now, that actually was an album that was conceived by Ian Green of Green Tracks, and he got together with some people that did the tours of the battlefields, and I produced a lot of just about all the live stuff for that album. It was a double album. And it was called Far From Ypres, or Ypres. And I think a good job was done in it, but it was done about I can't remember the date, 2010, something like that. And it went on. We didn't think of 2014, 18 as being the centenary of the First World War. So it was 2009, 2010, we did that album, and I got people in, and we got through all the trench songs and all that. And afterwards, I had this thought. It was one of the Green Tracks kind of anniversary concerts at the Queen's Hall, and I thought I might try and have a little bit of theatre going on with it, and got a few of the guys that had helped me with the album, and Pete Haywood. Pete Haywood put photographs on the back screen, projected photographs there, and that was a great idea from Pete. I didn't think of that. That was Pete Haywood. And then I thought, wouldn't a story be good? And I remember this says a lot for Celtic Connections. I remember getting in touch with Celtic Connections and saying, I've written this script for I've got a script and I've not asked people to be on it yet. And it was in November, and so it was for the next again year. And I got a thing back saying, "Oh, we've seen this, and it's got to be this. We've got to do it right away." So I was on the phone for a week non-stop, getting people along and getting it all sorted out. And we did the Strathclyde Suite or something like that, and it was sold out. It's a small venue within the concert hall. But Donald Shaw, that's the man. He did it all. He heard those tapes. He saw the script, heard the idea, and said, "We've got to do it this year." So this year being in 3 months' time, they'd already started advertising the acts on Celtic Connections, and I hadn't written I hadn't sort of written it, but I hadn't got all the songs, harmonies, and everything. So there was we all got together and started doing it, and had the idea of the arc round and people on stage and people coming from the arc into the middle, and we employed Pete Haywood's brilliant idea. No one was employed because no one made any money. But it was an integral part of the show, the back projection. And so Donald Shaw saw what that was about, maybe before even I did, even though I wrote the things that locked it all together, about this man called Jimmy and his journey to the front and back again. So that's the way that started, and then we filled the concert hall later, filled the Usher Hall, and very proudly we got the best event on the Trad Awards with it after that. And so it was a great journey and great people to be on the journey with. We played it in France as well, and we played all over, and it was just a magic show, and we miss it. And for that reason, I did another one, the Singing 60s, so that we could all get together again, plus some extras, and have bottles of wine. And Ian Anderson had a bottle of wine on his table every night for the run of the Far From Ypres. And I tell you, no one but Ian Anderson, my wife and me got to get into that wine. It magically disappeared.
Well, Ian, we are kind of running out of time here, so I just wanted to quickly. We're going to play a wee video of Dick Gaughan, and Dick, you've just recently remastered the Harvard tapes from Brian O'Donovan, who sent them, an American radio producer, and he sent them to you, and you made this album from a 1980 performance of Dick.
Yeah, I did. It was Celtic Connections again. Friend Ken McNaughton, most people will know him, Diggy McKenzie. Well, they got this. They'd been, I think it was Ken that was talking to Brian at Celtic Connections, and he said he had the tapes, and he sent them over, and they found their way to my desk. And I mastered them because Dick's a great friend of mine. And I don't say that lightly. He's one of my best friends and always has been for 50 years. And I see him all the time, and he's doing fine. I wish he'd get out more, but he's doing fine. And I keep in touch with him all the time. But what an album that is. It was Dick after a really hard tour. And in the scene, we all know that in the last gig, you're either great or you're rubbish. And Dick was great. And I'm getting credit for a good mastering job, but the tapes I got, you can't make a good print out of a bad negative. And the tapes I got were good, better than a lot that came along at that time. And Dick was just on top form.
Well, let's watch Dick singing from around the same time. This is a BBC production that I found on YouTube.
"1649, St. George's Hill. A ragged band they called the Diggers came to show the people's will. They defied the landlords, they defied the laws. They were the dispossessed, reclaiming what was theirs. We come in peace, they said, to dig and sow. We come to work the land in common and to make the wasteland grow. This earth divided, we will make whole, so it can be a common treasury for all. The sin of...
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Old Dick Gaughan. And as I say, Dick's doing fine. But he won't be doing gigs like that for a while, you know.
Well, fingers crossed we see him back at some point, because he
Absolutely.
is much missed.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Ian, thank you very much for coming on the afternoon show today. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, so have I. It's been great. Half an hour of shooting myself down.
Well, I said it at the start, but I can't thank you that I know you've just re-released Smuggler on your Bandcamp page, and that was the album that did it for me. It's almost instant when your mum and dad having their record collection, and they had Smuggler and they had Jimmy Shand, and we danced around our living room to Smuggler, and then I heard a concertina on it, and which has been a love affair for me ever since then, and that must have been about 1980.
That's great. I mean, it's there are two ways to look at that. I'm so pleased, and you know, of someone else finding music, and to people that have heard you, don't blame me.
Well, I think I'm sure you really do understand that you do know what you brought to the folk scene. I don't think we'd be anything without you. I think your song collections, your humour, what you're doing nowadays, I think it is really appreciated.
Well, thanks very much for that. I mean, it's really nice of you to say. And again, to the musicians, all those musicians that I see in Denmark, from Scotland, on tour over there, they're brilliant. They're a great advert for our country. They're not doing it at the present time. They must miss being on stage. They must miss the fact it cripples their livelihood. And so that concert you were talking about in Stonehaven, from Stonehaven, that looks a good one. And thanks for having me here and giving a wee push to the band camp. There's no money; it's £7 an album, and you have 3 free listens. So who's going to listen to 4 times of the McCalmans? So it's a good thing, though, and smoothly put up there. I've got to say, oh man.
Well, hopefully you'll actually get them onto all the streaming services as well. That would be great. Actually, make them available worldwide. That would be
good. Yeah. Well, I'll actually ask you about that.
Anytime.
How you do all that? I'm pretty good with the technology, not in setting up this particular channel, but I'm pretty good at the technology. But that's the thing. I've been told to put it on Instagram and all these things. And
you'll get there.
We've got a Facebook page. It took us. We got a Facebook page last week. We formed in 1964. We've got our first Facebook page in last week. So I still want to learn things new. So bring it to me.
Well, there's a lot of fans out there. There's Trudy saying that she still listens to the albums, and there's Maureen McIntosh enjoyed the stories we find on YouTube, and someone else saying how much your albums have never dated. So thanks very much, Ian, and I'll see everybody next week as well on the afternoon show.